My name is John Cannon from Teagasc, and we're here today to show the correct techniques to use when dipping sheep and in the disposal of the spent sheep dipped afterwards. Now, sheep dipping is a very important practice for sheep farmers because it's a way of controlling external parasites with one product. I also want to draw your attention to the health and safety aspects of sheep dipping. It's very important for farmers to have the correct facilities and to use the correct protective equipment and clothing. And when the dip has been disposed of afterwards, it is done in the correct way and land spread diluted 3:1 with water or slurry.
My name is Sean Gallina. I'm the catchment officer of the Finn for the CatchmentCARE project, which includes the Donegal County Council and Loughs Agency, among other partners. As part of the CatchmentCARE programme, we are investigating pesticides, particularly their effect on the water quality of the Finn. Pesticide has the potential to harm aquatic life if it gets directly into the river. There are two main types of pesticide that are used in sheep dipping products. One is cypermethrin and the other is organophosphates, or OP. Cypermethrin will be used in products such as CyperGuard, whereas OP would be used in products such as diazinon. The two chemicals work similarly on insects in the river. Generally, they disrupt the nerve systems of the insects, causing paralysis, which leads to starvation after a while. Now, the bugs that are present, or the pests rather, that are present on sheep are in the same macroinvertebrate family as the bugs that are present in the river. So the pesticide basically has the exact same impact on both of them. That there has to be taken into account. If the pesticide gets into the river, it will kill the local macroinvertebrate population just as readily as it will kill the pests on the sheep itself. The macroinvertebrates in the river are very important because they provide a ecological function. They shred leaves in the river. They make bacteria available to fish by consuming it and making that energy available up the food chain. So if they die off, that takes away the food for fish in the river and has a knock-on effect to animals that feed on fish as well.
When you're starting to dip sheep, starting with a unit like we have here today, you start with a clean bath and clean water. That's the first principle. Clean out the bath and start with clean water. Measure the bath so that you know the bath size. You can't dilute the dip without knowing how much chemical to add to it. So measure the bath and use the appropriate amount of dip as specified on the label. You have to wear protective clothing to protect yourself from the hazards of the chemicals. So again, follow the label directions in that line. We're dipping here today with gold fleece diazinon sheep dip. We are using a 1,000 litre bath, and we've started at 1,000 litres with 660 mils of gold fleece sheep dip. When mixing the dip, do not add any other chemicals or colorants or other foreign bodies to the dip wash. They can have a detrimental effect on the quality of the dipping. Collect up the sheep, take them to the bath, allow them to rest beforehand. Allow a couple of hours beforehand for the sheep to empty out. Makes it easier for the sheep to swim in the bath. Remove excessive dagging so as to reduce the dirtying of the bath. Again, don't overload the bath. We're using a 1,000 litre bath today, a round bath, which has plenty of room for 3 sheep to swim around. So plunge the head under twice and ensure that the sheep's back is pushed down under the water. Sheep float in the water, so ensure that they're well soaked down into the water. Allow 60 seconds for the dipping. That's a full minute. It's a long time to be standing over, and there's plenty of time to duck the head under in that time. But the sheep need that time to allow the wash to get into the skin where the parasites are. And you're talking about skin-borne parasites, lice, ticks, keds, and sheep scab, and of course blowfly and blowfly strike on the wool itself. Release the sheep to the draining area and allow the sheep to drain off back into the bath. The sheep remove a considerable amount of dip from the bath, and this must be let run back into the bath. The sheep shouldn't be released from the draining area until they have visibly stopped running dripping dip onto the floor. When the sheep have sufficiently drained, release them to an open field without access to drains, streams or fords to avoid contamination of streams and waterways. Do not shear the sheep within 3 months of dipping, and if you're handling the sheep for some weeks after dipping, always use protective clothing. After every 36 sheep have been dipped, the bath must be topped up or replenished of water, and you add 180 mils or 3 squirts of the applicator, 3 by 60 mil squirts of the applicator to the bath to restore the chemical to their original strength. The sheep strip active ingredient out of the water, it clings to the wool and weakens the bath. So it's crucially important that replenishment or topping up is carried out correctly as per the directions on the label. 1 sheep per 2 litres of capacity of the bath. The bath must be emptied and refilled. What that means is, in a 1,000 litre bath that we're working in today, the maximum number of sheep that should be put through is 500 sheep. At that point, empty the bath and wash out, fill with clean water and start again. If for any reason dipping is interrupted or you have more sheep that need to be dipped, do not keep the dip wash in the tank overnight. You must empty the tank at the end of the day's dipping and start afresh with a new solution the following day. There's a huge risk of post-dipping lameness in dirty baths or baths held overnight, and the only way to avoid that is to start with a fresh mix. Do not dose or drench the sheep with levamisole containing products, as there is a risk of toxicity for 14 days before or after dipping. Allow the sheep to dry before transporting. At the end of the day's dipping, it's important to cover your tank to avoid the risk of accidents on the farm, and also to wash your hands and remove all contaminated clothing and rinse off. After that, we need to dispose of the dip properly following dipping. The first thing is to rinse out the used containers 3 times and dispose of the rinsings in the dip bath. To dispose of the spent dip, it should be land spread at a maximum of 450 gallons per acre. To get to that low rate, the dip wash should be diluted at a rate of 3 to 1 with water or slurry. Here we're pumping the waste wash into the slurry tank for land spreading later.
It's advised that spent dip is added to a slurry tank because the slurry tank has a large microbial or bacterial population, and the pesticide is broken down by bacterial action. Furthermore, once the slurry is spread onto the land, UV light from the sun will also help break down the pesticide, and the pesticide will also bind with soil particles, rendering it inactive. That's why this is very important that spent dip mixed with the slurry is spread on land away from watercourses, so that sufficient time can pass where it can be deactivated by natural processes.
Especially Paddy de Brún, a gobber de Teagasc, agus tá sin seo nniu ar farm Paddy Carcan, ag general demonstration ag dipal leis cóirle chundaí, agus tá ban seo le Míl í Campbell, agus Míl seo lá mai a dipal. Cén tam lína bheit dipal aquí agus cén bunchadí le dipal?
I was going to dip on for Shaw March, September, 2 September. Be going to need up on Master Loughs would be on Foster, and I might get was Jerry's. Here's called dip on a shell. Reading a beer, not
Agus an dipal seo cén bunch sé scab seo agus a míle agus the text.
Meals, my get, and I should have the goals. Glanish as who's no keys, Jerry, my Foster. Why they're cracking parking, I had to be the fast could be my get ones. So what is my the dipples?
Agus an front dipal seo agus a spray dipal seo. Cén punchy caid oncon you so like terms like eisce agus le bahai.
Well, caid as you can just glance. Dipples made cart dipper got a chest of dashki stereos. The key can glance. Being dip glance good and chance stereos. Caid dipper fall. Ready done dip. My foster got just a separate tag or the shades agus. Caid Caid be cleistíir fan bhd agus échoráteat. Master mai dá go sena drintí ná scabú parkin í ná Daddy me sin.
Agus seo de gobar sa cóir condí seo agus tá bunta sí mór gan na dap seo ar seasan na srúhain san na hón. Agus ní sa man dohad na srúhain agus nasci.
Ja. Ja, an sean dóthir tá na brec sin an nóin nas mai hinne brec níos an sean. Mar raid a gerús. Ja sa mai hinne nóin na cíí na stoch na daddy gála mahas. Het a góin sa tírs. Tá mana túristú a han bhtart an fósta, mana da ní mu hí escarat. No tá ní dábí le sa nóin níos mó.
Agus tas a bhíine go hart faoidir chundaí ag depáil seo le spré depáil seo. An sin bhfuil fémirí chuir smór táhacht ar mobile depáil seo na an depáil sa concrete.
Tá níos mó daí sé taine ar mobile depa. Níar codíón níos mó. Tá da ní ágal le jóla gobars. Tá na seanta ní géirí sean. Níl sé níos dábí ar níos mó, tá mar an daí tart sé mobile depa sa tá.
Agus sin tas a féin bhfuil an mobile depáil níos fosa le téimre an duine bháin na gadannealta a brú. Sin.
Tá se bhaid níos fosa ar stoch, ní fosa ar daní. Ní tú taineat na sleipan na taineat ar níos mó. Tá bhaid níos fosa ar a hanbad. Se ní le codíón, ní na jaardní mór go leornas na ní na depars mai go leor hín. Agus tá se bhaid níos fosa.
Agus tas mu sa honnaí as an mobile depar seo. Cin cuppa fácar a dearad a fémrí chun set á sús agus cin bhil teasnar tá dothir ar batha agus.
Teos na jaarden í sala. Tá sé an dóthir ar bathaís. Teos gain. Badí bag mar sin. Badí sampal níl gaftí bí matra acús badí. Badí mar sin.
Agus ponchas móbráin bhá an dapan nuair sa critní an dapa ar seasta seppi tank agus nuair sa féimí chu maithan slóí arás be seat an dapar master sa slóí agus ar scabúir ar talú atna mé cógan na srúhain na hóine bí agus tá an sáhaide in terms of chóirla condaí agus sinne fásta in Teagasc tá sin rásin in terms of sáhaide. Bunte bhfuilm buíar sem mórthir de pádaí harcin chun demonstration demo seo dhéanú nniu ar férim bhfuilm buíthar sa chóirla condaí tá seo an Loughs Agency agus fásta bei míide an seo nniu agus míl sanne fásta tá seo cant fan mobile depar agus mobile depar tegin ar talún seo nniu bhain bhíar mór a handanne agus tá seo an chodú de fémirí gan tosaí agus be san chodú nuag an dafa agus hásan dóid ceart le a bathe depa agus an depa disposal se seppi tank. Bhain go mhaigh méhírás in bhainniu.
Hi, gur mhaigh.
My name is Phil Malloy, Chairman of the Broca branch of the Irish Nature and Health Farmers Association, and just like to thank the local authority in Teagasc for organising this demonstration here today. Hopefully that the farmers in the area will benefit from this. I know that there's a video being produced and we will actually assist with the distribution of that video if need be, so that the full benefits of the demonstration and the procedures that have to be carried out in order to dip sheep properly and to dispose of the dip will actually be worked through. Obviously the concern in relation to pollution is a major issue, and we would see this as being a very, very beneficial exercise, and we would look forward to working with the local authorities and anybody else is interested in devising systems to prevent pollution in the future. Thank you very much.
Donegal County Council, on behalf of the CatchmentCARE project, have developed an info sheet on the proper disposal of sheep dipping products. And this is available if you visit the CatchmentCARE website or email myself, Sean Gallina, or Fidelma Maher of the Donegal County Council, and we will email you a PDF of it. Our officers will also be in the Finn on a regular basis, and if you meet us in person and request a sheet, we will send it out to you.